And we're going to start with David Trevaskis. I'm going to do a brief PowerPoint that you all should be able to see on the screen. And I will be introducing Sandy Ballard after I'm done. Sandy will take care of the introductions of our other folks. We have one important person, though, that we do need to introduce, and that's Winifred Gunther, who is a student at Berkeley, undergraduate student at Berkeley, who's been helping us with this session and doing all kinds of work for Sandy this summer. So we're very excited to be going on this. This is a real brief overview just to get us started and for Sandy to keep posting in the chat room some questions that she wants everybody to look at. When Sandy takes over, we're going to make this as interactive as we possibly can. But for right now, I'm just going to take about 10 minutes to get us situated and started. And I always like to start, let's see if we can make the PowerPoint go. I like to start with baseball. And I always have to say, we obviously know this is not Sandy or Winnie in the picture. And my wife always insists that I tell you that I'm the one on the right. I do not know why she says I have to tell you that. But maybe that's just a sign that I need to be less green and lose a little weight. But I don't want Max over in Pittsburgh to feel like I'm leaving him out. So Max, there you are. We have our Parrot along with our fanatic. Anyway, this is our agenda for what's going on, pro bono in the age of COVID-19. And this PowerPoint is available to you uploaded with tons of materials that we've uploaded for the session. So I'm not going to read your PowerPoint or do any of that death by PowerPoint. But I do want you to know that what we're going to talk about, what is happening now in poverty and civil legal aid, the need for systems change, and that's a term of art really pushed across Pennsylvania and nationally by one of the great leaders of legal aid. I am proud to say he's my mentor, but he's somebody who we've had speak in Pennsylvania numerous times and hope to have him up again when the virus passes. He's 85 years old, so he's sort of bunkered down in a basement of his own. That's a term of art, I guess, these days. But that is Edgar Kahn, who, if you know the story of Edgar Kahn and his late wife, Jean Camper Kahn, they're credited with creating the basis for the legal aid system we have today nationally. The Legal Services Corporation came out of a law review article they wrote in 1964. Anyone interested in Edgar Kahn, I have links and other things to him. What a great man and what a neat person for our field. But he talks about the need to change things systematically rather than Band-Aid by Band-Aid. And really from Zoom help to virtual clinics, what is a pro bono volunteer and a pro bono program conducted by a legal services corporation grantee supposed to do these days. So as we look forward, we always start any of our sessions with the rule of professional conduct. That's why you guys are getting an ethics credit for today, because of this rule and because we're going to talk about what we do. And I always say there are key elements here. And when later I go through a little slide which talks about what lawyers can do in the age of the pandemic, one of the things that you should know is obviously if you render service to the poor for no fee or low fee, you're doing pro bono work. But you're also really doing pro bono work. And in this time, it may be one of the best ways for our pro bono lawyers to help. You are rendering pro bono service when you donate money. A lot of times what's very hard for pro bono volunteers to understand is that if they take resources from legal aid because they have to be trained in the process of the person they're helping, they have to be trained how to do things. If they have to be making frequent calls to the legal aid staff to figure out how they handle their pro bono case, it really doesn't help, take on the burden of the legal aid. But it is so important because we have to make sure that lawyers understand, non-legal aid lawyers understand the need for the system to improve and the need for those who are able to give donations. In this time of the pandemic, we have some lawyers who are themselves finding that they have need for legal services because they can't make their rent. They've lost their practices. It's a really terrible time for some lawyers. It's not as bad for the field as 2008 was, but it is still bad for the field. It's much, much worse for the poor across the state. So The Blind Man and the Elephant is an old parable. I don't know how many of you know that parable. I was a former third grade teacher, so I always like to go to things that I understand at my third grade level. But the parable of the blind man and the elephant is that a bunch of blind men came upon an elephant. they all grabbed a certain part of the elephant, and they argued with each other about what the elephant was, seeing the elephant only for what they grabbed. So the man holding the tusk thought the elephant was a spear. The guy holding the side of the elephant thought the elephant was a wall. The guy holding the tail of the elephant, I always feel very badly for the poor man holding the tail of the elephant. But he thought the elephant was like a rope. And you go on in this. When we look at legal aid and we look at pro bono across the state, it really is the blind man and the elephant. What we see is that wherever you look, pro bono is done differently, and how it connects with legal aid is done differently. If you go to Scranton, where Sylvia Hahn, who's on our call, works and runs Lackawanna Pro Bono, you see a standalone pro bono project that connects with the bar, that connects with legal aid, but that really is an entity that's funded and runs completely on its own. In many of our counties across the state, legal aid works with the local bar to create a pro bono program. But in some of our counties, like Sandy's Dauphin County, the Bar Association has gone so far beyond just working with the local legal aid program. They've created numerous programs of their own. And so we want to always look at wherever you are. Our office at the Pro Bono office of the Pennsylvania Bar gets over 6,000 calls for helps from people across the state each year. Some of those people are at the end of their rope. They've tried everything, and they really just are coming to us because they have nowhere else to go. Some of them are beginning their searches. But one of the things which I always say to them is it all really depends on where you live, because pro bono is local. We have statewide projects, but at its heart, it's local. And if you think about it, this goes back to something Joe Jones, who was a past president of the PBA from Schuylkill County. It's something Joe Jones worked really hard to do back in the last century, create the idea of this three-legged stool where you have the local legal aid program, the local bar association, and they're working with the courts under the umbrella of the legal aid network, Pennsylvania Legal Aid Network, and the umbrella of the Pennsylvania Bar Association to provide for their local poor. So that's the blind man and the elephant. We always want justice. Obviously, this is about the Bill of Rights and about what we have. And the whole idea of our entire nation being started to establish justice is so important. I had to throw in a few slides about the Constitution because tomorrow is our Constitution Day. It's the day they signed the document near me in Philadelphia. I live right outside the city. And it's the day that the document was signed. It's not the day it was ratified because it took 9 states to approve it at that time. But we are supposed to always celebrate any entity that gets federal money, which means every legal aid program in the state are supposed to do something to celebrate the Constitution every year around this time. So we saw the slides, maybe that counts. Whole systems thinking, which is the model that I talked about from Edgar Kahn, is that the whole is definitely greater than the sum of the parts. And you have to fix the whole to be able to really get down to help the people at the lowest level. A lot of our work in legal aid helps the people at the lowest level, but some of the best work that's being done is the leadership of PLAN, the leadership of the IALTA board to push for systematic change. This whole systems thinking is so important for us. We'll fit that in our larger discussion with Sandy. And then the idea of co-production, something really important to think about. The old line about if you give somebody a fish, they eat tonight. If you teach them to fish, they eat forever. Of course, they have to like fish as they eat forever. But in legal aid, we need to start thinking about our clients, and I think many of us do. Our clients have to be involved in solving their own problems so that they know what to do the next time, and also they know to be advocates for the system. So always talk about PA Law Help, which is the incredible resource promoted by the Pennsylvania Bar in conjunction with PLAN, but run by my wonderful colleague, Hank Leone. If you don't go to PA Law Help, if you don't recommend PA Law Help, you're really missing a bet. And for the pro bono lawyers on the call today, taking the CLE, this is one of the ways that you handle a situation where you can't really help somebody or you don't want to help somebody. And instead of ending the conversation by saying, I can't help you, you can give them PA Law Help. And give them that a direction that they can go to. For the field, for lawyers, all the lawyers, whether you're in legal aid or you're not, if you're a pro bono lawyer or you're a legal aid lawyer or a pro bono paralegal or a legal aid paralegal, you should go and sign up for PArobono.net. It's a site where we have tons and tons of interactive documents that are available. We have all the things that really can help you. And Hank runs that and keeps an incredible calendar. So if you haven't done that, you should do that today. It takes about 5 minutes to sign up. Hank will vet you and you'll be vetted and on in a day or two. So what can lawyers do? This is what we want you to do. We want you to do pro bono. We want you to be concerned about the lack of access to justice. We want you to promote access to justice as a benefit for society as a whole. Let others know about it. Those of you who have contacts who are in powerful positions, let them know. And if you can, please donate. So this is a slide about what's going on in pro bono in Pennsylvania that you should know about. Know that Pro Bono Week is the last week of October. It always is our celebration. 12 years now that we've celebrated it nationally. Pennsylvania has more programs celebrating pro bono than any other state each year for this pro bono time. So know about those things. And then we have, for more information, my contact information and Sandy's. So Sandy, it's time to send it to you. For me, 10, 12 minutes is not bad.
Nice, Dave. Wow. And I want to thank everyone for joining and putting up with all my questions. And if I could call on Kelly to start by asking a few of those questions we've already received.
Sure. Let me scroll up here to start at the beginning. It's a lot to sift through. Here
I
we
think
go.
Cynthia has one.
Yes. What would those who do pro bono service be most interested in assisting with or have the capacity to assist with?
Okay. And I think that's an excellent question that we hope to focus on. But briefly, let me say, pro bono volunteers are most interested in doing short, limited scope pro bono assignments. So if Winnie can pull up our screen, we have a write-up in your handouts about our custody clinics that was written by one of our wonderful interns, Lucas. And I think she's pulling that up now. And if you look through this, that tells you a little bit more in detail about how our custody clinics work. They are about 1 or 1.5 hours long. And if Jennifer Connor would unmute herself, can you tell us basically what happens at a custody clinic on Zoom?
I sure can. I'm Jennifer Connor. I was a paralegal with Mid-Penn. I volunteered for about 2 years, and then I've come back to help out with the Zoom custody clinics since almost a year ago now. The custody clinics are clinics that allow pro bono clients to get assistance with paperwork and prepare for the conciliations. And it just gives them a general overview regarding how the custody process works. Sandy's pretty good about making it very interactive as far as leading and preparing the clients in their own words as well. We do have a lot of volunteers that come in to assist with the paperwork. Custody Clinic Part 1 is generally the complaint and modification and the corresponding forms. The second part is usually the IFP, where we go through the client's financials line by line of that form and assist them in filling that out. And then part 3 is really more of the interactive clinic, where we sit down with the client and assess exactly what they're looking for, how to dress for the conciliation, what the conciliation is, and how to conduct themselves. We really try to give them reasonable expectations when they go into the clinic or the conciliation, because a lot of the time they have in their mind that they want something like full custody or primary custody, when it's really a 50-50 case. So we really navigate the client's expectations as well as prepare them for conciliation and what happens if you don't agree.
And thank you very much. Jen just heard about this morning, and I put her on the spot. But I think it's important to do an opportunity via Zoom, in particular is what I'm promoting right now. My husband's immune compromised, so I haven't been inside a building other than my home since March 18th. So what we basically need to do is remember that you never want an attorney or volunteer to get sick or have a problem when they're doing pro bono. So it's kind of in response, what would those who do pro bono service be most interested in? Is not risking their life. And what do they have the capacity to do? We're working with Matt Rich at Mid-Penn on doing a landlord-tenant mediation program. We have 15 magistrate district judges' offices. I cannot get attorneys to go to all 15 of those locations all over the county, but I can get 50 of them to show up at the same time on a Zoom. So they're interested in things that they can fit into their schedule. So it's about the pro bono schedule. If you want them to do it, make it easy. If you want them to do it, make it short. Each of the custody clinics is about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and be done early. Do not finish up late. Always be done early. If you want volunteers to participate, make it easy. Make sure there's always an expert on the call with you. So Winnie, if you pull up the driver's license clinic, and if Nick Matash is on, I'm not sure if he's on, I'm going to ask him to unmute, but he's the managing attorney at Mid-Penn, and we did the driver's license clinic with him. We had awesome attorneys, but we also had experts that can jump into a Zoom room at any time to join the conversation. So you have to make it short, you have to make it easy, you have to have support, you have to make it convenient, no driving around all over town, no parking. In Harrisburg, you have to pay for parking. Don't make people pay for parking. And you have to
Oh, Sandy
Sick.
froze up there. There we
Oh,
go.
I'm so sorry. I
You
do
froze
that a
up
lot.
for a minute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, so is Nick on? If Nick's on and can unmute.
I didn't see Nick in the participants.
Oh, sorry, okay, never mind. All right, so those would be my suggestions: short, easy, accessible. Dave, did I miss anything about what pro bono volunteers like to do?
No, and I think the more things we can give pro bono lawyers to do that they can do from the comfort of their office on an asynchronous time, meaning they schedule it as opposed to us scheduling it, that's even better. So we've always been looking for projects like that. We just finished a project with the Clean Slate. I don't know how many of the people listening know that in the last year we have sealed 30 million criminal records that kept people from getting jobs.
Right.
30 million records were automatically sealed, and every day new records from the past are being automatically sealed. The project that we had there was so successful that we are winding it down and not taking any more volunteers for it. But what the project did was it allowed people who had records or thought they had records to see if they would qualify for the sealing. And we gave lawyers training and gave lawyers materials. They would then find a client from our list of people. They would check their records, see if they qualified, and then send them a contact, an email and everything. So it was something they could all do from their desk. And it really was a very highly popular program. Our largest pro bono program, which is not a legal aid program in terms of poverty law, but still helps the community, is our Wills for Heroes program, which is set on Saturdays and is a set time for providing wills for first responders and veterans. The reason I think that's so successful is because it is a Saturday, it's a time people know they are set, and it's something that you come, you get trained, you get a couple of CLEs, you do the volunteer work, and then you go home and you're done. That's always the best. There's this fear And the rules have changed in professional responsibility, so this should never happen. But there's this fear that if I take a family law case, I'm going to have the kid for the next 18 years. And that fear, because of limited representation rules that the Supreme Court have allowed, should never happen.
Okay, let me go on to the next. Sorry about that. We also are doing with Toby Oxum pardons clinic on November 17th by Zoom. And I wanted to add two things about how to attract pro bono. I think that was Jennifer's question, how to attract, which is very similar to Cynthia's question about how to, what do they like to do. Another way to attract pro bono is if anybody comes to you with an idea, give it a try. So that's how we started our arts assistance program and our expungement clinics, all via Zoom, remember, are actually now adopted by the law firm of Saul Ewing, because someone at that firm, who's now getting our Pro Bono Lawyer of the Year award, was interested in doing it. And so if you have someone with a personal commitment to it, you can leverage that. And often it'll be successful. I also want to add, one of my questions was, are you willing to be creative and make mistakes? Because you must be willing to make mistakes, not with someone's lives. No one's going to die, as Nick Matash often tells me, but you have to be able to say, we're going to try this pilot program, and always use the word pilot. And if it doesn't work, fine. But if it does, then it's a success. So I always recommend that. I also want to go back to the logistics. Okay, now we've kind of talked about how great Zoom is. And again, when I say Zoom, I just say any video conferencing capacity, but I just call it the Zoom. So if Sylvia's on, can you tell us, Sylvia, please, a little bit about your family law help desk, which I plan to plagiarize with permission, as I often do with pro bono. Sylvia, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. I was muted. Sorry, it took me a minute to get unmuted. So, Sandy, you have my permission to plagiarize whenever you want. So we have something that we call the Family Law Help Desk, and it's something that we've been doing for the past few years, but up until recently, it was not done virtually. It was done in person. And the Family Law Help Desk provides clients an opportunity to get advice, just advice about family law problems. And the way we ran it was we would get a volunteer to volunteer for a 2-hour time slot. And they were held at the family court building, and the clients could register in advance, in which case we would do our application, make sure they were eligible, get a little bit of information about the case. We would do that all over the phone beforehand, and then they would show up on the day of the help desk, and it was kind of first come, first served for people who got there. But people could also just walk in. If they didn't register in advance, they could just walk in. And again, it was first come, first served. Some volunteers really like it. Other volunteers didn't want to do it. I think all of our volunteers are different in their preferences. Some people would rather do major litigation than sit down with somebody that they don't know anything about for 15 minutes. But this was really helpful because there are just so many people who need help with family law, and far more people than we could serve, and lots of family law problems, really just little obstacles that people needed a little bit of help to get past. So when COVID came, we weren't sure what we would do, and it looked kind of overwhelming to move it to virtual. But looking back on it, once we did it, it was easy. We do things pretty much the same way, except not in person. Interestingly, all of our Family Law Help Desk sessions so far have been by phone, not Zoom. Our volunteers preferred that, which surprised me. But what we do is we take the applications over the phone, just as we did before. What's a little bit different is that we now schedule the appointments. So if it's a 2-hour session, people get appointments at half-hour intervals, because most of these problems can be addressed in a half an hour or less. And then the paperwork is done by phone and by email. Our clients with a help desk, just as with a full representation referral, our clients have to sign a retainer agreement. We want to make it very clear to them what the limits are of the services that are being offered. And we've been able to do that by email. A lot of our clients are not able to print out the agreement, so we email the agreement to them, review it with them over the phone, and then they're required to email back that they read it, understood it, and agree with the terms. So it's actually, I think it works better for the clients than the in-person ones did, because our clients tend to have problems with transportation and babysitting. So we've had better attendance. We have a good rate of people actually showing up at the time for their appointment, better than when they were face-to-face. So there certainly are some advantages. When COVID is over, we're going to go back to face-to-face, but I think we'll do it periodically virtually for those people who do have transportation and babysitting problems.
I'm sorry, Sylvia, can I ask, Dana has a question. How do you handle retainers for clients without email?
So interestingly, so far, everybody has had email.
Me too.
Yeah, and I was surprised. We thought that was going to be an obstacle. But the other alternative would be that you have to just schedule things far enough in advance so it can be done by mail, and you send people a stamped return envelope.
And Cassidy asked, do clients sign in some way?
Is that a question about the retainer agreement?
I think. Cassidy Gruber Barth, are you on?
I am on. Yeah, I was wondering if they sign electronically, if they sign the retainer agreement electronically, or if you just have them write back to confirm that they understand it.
Yeah, if they don't have the ability to print out and scan or photograph and email back, we just have them respond in an email saying that they understand and agree, and that they read it. We thought e-signing might be more complicated.
Right. And we even had, with the custody forms for all those clinics, as Jen pointed out, we even have clients just take pictures, just take photos of what they filled out. You can see it just fine. In the driver's license clinic, we used a form, and immediately after the clinic, I could give people the form that after the lawyer explained what they needed to do to get their driver's license, they got a reminder in an email. And I could send that also as a 1 week later reminder automatically. These are all things you can do with your technology that works automatically. So it really frees up your time. And again, we've only had, of all our clinics, one person who could not somehow participate. All you need is a phone. You don't need to Zoom by computers. You can Zoom by a phone. But before we get down too much, and Sylvia, I don't want to cut you off. Did I cut you off too much?
No.
I cut off everyone, so it's only a matter of quality. And if possible, my wonderful intern extraordinaire, Winnie, if you could start the video clip about how to join a Zoom room or the share screen, either one.
All right, got it. Let me pull that up.
And meanwhile, on deck, hopefully, I have reached out to Barb Griffin, if she's hearing my voice. Barb runs the pro bono program in Pittsburgh. Here I am in rinky-dink Harrisburg. I don't do very much. So Barb, if you're on and if you're willing after the video clips to speak about one of your programs, I'd love to hear about it. All right, go for it, Winnie. It'll come up soon, I'm sure. And this happens, so when you're on your group clinic, you just have to go with the flow. Jen, one of my wonderful volunteers, knows if my technology doesn't work, which I play a video from PA Law Help on our custody clinic, and sometimes the technology does not work. And we would, we'll just interrupt that effort, Winnie, and go to Barb. Barb, you are here and I see your face, so can you share?
I wasn't
Excuse
quite-
me.
quite-
I'm so
I wasn't-
sorry. This
Wait.
is Kelly. I need to interrupt and launch the first of the 2 CLE box polls. So you should see a box on your screen now. Attorneys requesting CLE credit for your participation. Please respond to that. And Barb, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please feel free to continue.
It would have been
That's
okay,
okay.
Kelly. I would have been interrupting Barb. I was on my list as soon as this appeared. We always
Okay.
want to remind anybody who is falling asleep. How can you fall asleep when Sandy's going, though? But that we want to make sure you get your credits. So, Barb, it's great to see you.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. I'm really happy to see some Allegheny County folks on here.
We need you to speak up a little, Barb. We can't quite hear you.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can't hear Barb at all. And hey, that happens too. So, Winnie, are you able to get
Yeah.
that?
Try it. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, not yet. Now.
We can see it.
Now.
Okay, perfect. All right, ready to play?
Yes.
All right, this is a quick video on how to join a breakout room in Zoom and how to call for help when you're in a breakout room. So during the clinics, you'll be divided into breakout rooms with a few people who you will be helping fill out their forms. The breakout rooms are nice because it's a smaller group of people, so conversation and communication is a little bit easier. At the beginning of the meeting, the host will open the rooms and you will get a notification that has the option to join breakout room. Click that blue button and you will be redirected to your breakout room. So I'm now in my breakout room, and if I had any questions about the forms we're going through or anything else, I could come down to this bottom panel and click on Ask for Help. Then I would press Invite Host. This will send the host a notification that you have a question, and they will get an invitation to join your breakout room so they can come answer it. Then, when I'm done filling out all the forms, I can press Leave Room, and I have the option to leave the meeting as a whole or leave the breakout room. If you just leave the breakout room, you'll be returned to the main meeting room. Here I am. If I were to have pressed the gray button that just said Leave Meeting, I would hang up the Zoom call for myself.
Great, Winnie, thank you so much for doing that. So I should go back to mention, I'm just gonna, in case I crash again, to mention that what we first do with the clinic, and I'm just gonna go through it step by step, we pick a date and a time. So our Pardons clinic is on November 17th. At noon, we will begin with a Zoom CLE. Toby Oxum will lead the CLE and everyone gets credit. If someone wants to do pro bono work with Pardons, they get to attend the CLE for free. Otherwise, you have to pay. Then immediately after the CLE that ends at 1, we start our clinic. The clinic will begin much like we began our Zoom chat today. Everyone's in one big group. There's 64 or so of us, maybe 70. And so what I did at our driver's license clinic is I turned it over to our expert, Ed Sparia, and he gave us an overview of driver's license clinics and what we were going to do and how to go about getting your driver's license restored. We do the same thing with the custody clinics. We watch a little video for that one. And we will do the same thing for the Pardons. Toby will give the whole group, that's volunteers and the customers, an outline of what the law provides. And there'll be a few handouts I will provide in advance. And then after that brief overview, maybe 15 minutes, half hour, not too long, then I will break everyone up into Zoom rooms. So to understand the Zoom room feature, Winnie made that 1-minute clip. And I highly recommend 1-minute clips. And I was hoping, has anyone in this room done a 1-minute clip to help your volunteers? I think these are excellent and I'm learning to do it myself. But if anyone feels like they can unmute and share a clip, like a 1 minute, this is not like a training video. This is a clip, a tip clip, if you will. So if anyone has made one of those, I hope you will let us know by unmuting or writing us a note in the chat. Then after you go into your Zoom room, I usually, if I can, pair an attorney with a student or a paralegal, someone who is more versed, if you will, in Zoom, because students are using Zoom for school. So undergrad, grad, whatever level, they know how to do Zoom. And one of my questions was, why don't lawyers know how to use Zoom more? I'm not sure, but for now I try to pair them together. So Zoom rooms have a great feature. You're totally private. It's usually an attorney, a paralegal, and a customer. And then they talk, they can pull up, they can do screen share, they can look at their criminal record online, they can look at their driver's license, etc. They can look at the forms online. Screen share does all that. So Winnie, if you have a moment, can you please pull up the screen share tip clip that you made?
Yes.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to get, oh, there it is. Go ahead.
All right.
All right, so this is a quick video on how to share your screen on Zoom. So in preparation for this Zoom meeting, I've already downloaded all of the documents I'll need for the clinic. So all forms that I received in the email, I have downloaded on my laptop, and I'm in a Zoom meeting right now. So in order to share my screen, I'll come down to this bottom panel, and I'll click on Share Screen. Then this window will open that shows me all of the documents I currently have open on my computer. So if I want to share the custody complaint document, I'll click on that, and I'll click on Share. The document will open, and whatever you're seeing on my screen right now is what everyone else in the Zoom meeting would see. You can use the document as you usually would. You can type into it. You can check the boxes. You can scroll. It's really helpful because everyone else in the clinic can then see where you're at in the form and can follow along a little bit easier.
Excellent. Wow, wasn't that quick? How about a round of applause for Winnie? Jim D'Angelo sent her my way, so I can attest to his great referrals. Okay, so.
Sandy, Barbara is back, and I think she's able to speak now.
Yes, go Barbara, thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that working?
Yes.
Okay, I switched to a different computer. So yeah, I wasn't quite ready for prime time. So, but I wanted to, I started by saying I'm really happy to see all of the Allegheny County folks on here, and please jump in with, you know, anything that you've been doing to add my mind. Yeah, it's really amazing. And we, our public services, behind the scenes, I've been chatting directly with some people on this screen, and we're, our public service committee is going to be planning our Pro Bono Week programs, and these ideas about the virtual legal clinic are great, and we may do something like that. So the way that our pro bono model works here in Allegheny County is that we set up pro bono programs that pretty much operate independently of me. So we provide a lot of support in setting up the programs. We provide malpractice coverage, but it's really volunteers that are running the pro bono program. And hearing back from them, and many of those were in-person clinics. So hearing back from them, they're switching to an online, to a phone model, which is what we're really seeing. And for many of that seems to be working so far. So we're gonna keep examining that and seeing what works and what doesn't, and take that into the future. I think, like many of you, we were thinking, oh, we'll just sort of manage for the meantime till this thing is over, and now we're really looking very long-term at how this all is gonna work. Some of the practices that we used to do, like in-person applications for our divorce law project, where we'd have clients come in person down to our office, apply, present a photo ID. We switched that to email applications, and we'll probably never go back to in-person applications. I mean, it's working just fine. And you know, now, so we realized, why did we make our clients spend bus fare and take off work to schlep down to our offices. So those are kind of some things that we're seeing that will be long term. One last thing in terms of a project idea that can be done virtually. We collaborated with Neighborhood Legal Services over the summer to use law students to help prepare attorneys for final protection from abuse cases. And what the law students did was look at publicly available information on a party in the case and provide a summary of that information to the attorney who was handling the case. So these are things like the criminal docket. So you can see if the party has had a history of violent crime, and the family law dockets and other dockets too, just kind of civil dockets, just sort of seeing what's going on in that litigant's life and providing that information. That's something that the law students and lawyers too can be easily trained to do, and completely remotely, and really provided valuable information in these cases. And then the next thing we're doing is a pardon project. So we're doing a short-term project to help people prepare their pardon applications. And again, the information that, for example, we use to screen potential clients for eligibility is looking up their criminal record online, which is, of course, is available through the PAUJS portal. So, so those things have really fit well to working remotely. Anyone else from Allegheny County want to chime in?
I just, while we're waiting for Allegheny County to respond, I'll also mention several, Jolene, Leona, and Betty, on probably some other people, wanted to know about the logistics. So I want to make sure we have gone over the logistics. Our time is almost over. But I also wanted to add Barbara's comment. Yeah, once you use Zoom, you'll never go back. It's just, it's so much more convenient. More efficient, more effective, but and also with video. You noticed how I kept bugging all of you to add your video faces? I crave human interaction, and I want to see Barbara's wonderful smile, and I want to see their response, because so much of our communication is visual, not just oral. So video is important, and it is very respectful. I think, we can talk to people as human beings, not just as computers. But I also use Sign Up Genius. That's another tech logistics. Now you can do Sign Up Genius. I've used it for years with all my clinics, but in particular, it's part of this idea. We can do so much if it's if it's automated. So that Winnie did a wonderful thing. Winnie, can you pull up your Riverfront Chat information? How do you do registration for clinics? So Jennifer asked that question. It's an excellent question. So registration, I still do manually. I don't know, Barbara, do you do manual registration for the customers? Barbara, I don't know if you can still hear us.
When you say manual, I'm sorry, what do you mean by manual registration, like paper?
As opposed, no, as an email, as opposed to Sign Up Genius or something automatic.
I don't use Sign Up Genius. No, I've never used that. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, well, I think Sign Up Genius can be used for both. Just Google it. You'll find it. It's easy to use. What have been some things you've done to help individuals with access to tech issues? Well, there are no tech issues with Zoom. And I don't know if Winnie was on this particular clinic, but more than once, so there's my husband, hi Steve, more than once I have called on my landline, an actual phone, remember landlines, anyone? I have called someone who was supposed to be on the Zoom with us and didn't show up. I call her at home, I put her on speaker, I sit her on top of my laptop, and she's talking. So she didn't call in. Well, that doesn't stop us. We can call them. And did that answer Richard's question about technology issues? Oh, Eventbrite. Christina says we can use Eventbrite for a sign up. for the registration question that Jennifer raised. I also just want to mention, and I would be doing a disservice to my wonderful friend Mary Vilter, who many of you know, is access is huge. So we have to accommodate anyone who has any special needs. And I am hoping that Marielle might be on the line, and or someone else who has used Language Line or another resource to help with limited access. Is anyone able to comment on that? I was just on a nationwide conference yesterday afternoon about the landlord-tenant mediations that are going on, and they said on that whatever it's called, the Zoom, that it's easier to do language access on a Zoom platform because you can have any language available, pretty much, you know. Whereas if you need someone who speaks Spanish to drive to a magistrate district judge's office somewhere, you know, and wait 5 hours. But does anyone have yeah, Winnie, go ahead.
Yeah, Sandy, I can speak a little to that. I can also speak a little bit to accessibility for people with sensory disabilities. I know that was also a question. Zoom, you can connect third-party services to Zoom. So closed captioning services can be linked to Zoom. I'm going to send a link in the chat about how to connect a third-party application to Zoom to do your closed captioning for you. Also, so some of those third-party applications you might have to pay for. You can also have someone log in as a participant, and there's an option on Zoom to make them your closed captioner. So throughout your meeting, you can have them typing, and whatever they're typing will appear on the screen. So that can help with like language barriers or for the hearing impaired. For those who may be blind or have difficulty seeing, there's a screen reader function on Zoom that will read whatever is on your screen to you, and you can hear it like audio. So I'll send a few links in the chat about that.
And in fact, for those of you who've been on the clinics with us, one of our best and most frequent volunteer is our attorney, Mark, who is a blind attorney, and he does our Zoom custody clinics almost every month with us. So do not be discouraged by any form of sensory disability. But the person who asked that, Catherine, if you're online, Catherine, who asked about sensory disabilities, can you unmute and share with us? I don't know if she's still there.
Oh, I'm still here. It's just something that we're thinking about, the Health Law Project. I know one of my colleagues and I are planning to do a public-facing training later this year to seniors on programs that can help with Medicare costs, and we're going to do it through Zoom, and just want to make sure that we can make it as accessible as possible. So since this is new to us to try to do that kind of training, those are useful tips. Thank you for that.
And also I want to mention that Christine mentioned Survey Monkey. I think she mentioned that. I'm losing my comments. Or Google Form, you use that for your Riverfront Chat. Winnie, can you take a couple minutes, just tell us about your Riverfront Chat? You can pull that up too.
Yeah, so our Riverfront Chat was a community-facing outreach program that was intended to answer some of the community's questions that arose due to COVID. So let me try to pull that up. So basically, we had a panel of lawyers or experts speak on each subject. It would be an hour-long chat, and we would mainly target or market this event to public libraries, places of worship, grocery stores. We hang flyers, and we would have people register for our chats, which would be held on Zoom. And let me screen share this.
And again, this was Winnie's project. She's an undergrad student, and I let her run with this, and she shines so brightly. So this is her work.
Okay, so as you can see here, our first Riverfront Chat was on June 12th, and we had like a top 10 tips for PA workers and unemployment compensation. So we had this panel, and we had a host, and people could, we tried to make it interactive. People could ask questions and get their questions really just answered in this short hour-long event. We had a few. We had one about Our most popular one, actually, that I think was really helpful to people was the landlords and renters. When can I be evicted and who will help? And we recorded all of these Zoom sessions so that the information could be available for people at a later time as well. And we posted those to our YouTube channel. So let me see if I can show you this briefly.
Oh, wow. I'll be impressed. Oh,
Must give a notice to quit, which is a written document identifying the reason.
So here we have, you see, well, you don't see, you see like a PowerPoint presentation up. Basically, our panelists, you can see some of them on the side here, they would speak and have information presented. I did like a short little presentation about the basics of landlord and renter issues that might have come up, and then they did a question and answer following it. So we found that that structure really worked, where we did a little bit of an intro and then had a question and answer section after, and we got a lot of really good feedback and a lot of good questions in these sessions.
okay. I think the panelist, oh, Winnie, we didn't show the driver's license clinic flyer, if you want to show that. I'm just desperately trying to keep up with these comments, but are there any questions, I don't know if Kelly's been keeping up, that we didn't answer?
I just saw one come in from Marielle. We have been using our bilingual staff to interpret so far, so I haven't used remote interpreting over Zoom, but I've also heard that it works very well. And for what it's worth, we have found Zoom outreach meetings to be very effective for our LEP clients.
Oh,
So
nice.
not necessarily a question, but a comment.
Yes, exactly. Very good. And any other questions or comments that we didn't address? Because we do have 5 minutes, and if not, I may have you share, what was it, your funniest Zoom story or your favorite Zoom tutorial. And I also want to say, as always, Barb has used Interpreter through Zoom and it worked really well. Barb, can you tell us how that works?
Yes, I have a great relationship with an organization called the Latino Community Center here in Pittsburgh. Their office is a block from mine, which worked great when we were in person, but they have on their staff, they have, their whole staff is bilingual. So when their clients need legal help, they just reach out to me, and the interpreters are provided by that organization. And we've done a couple of Zoom meetings with the clients. And, it worked just fine, almost as if we were in person.
That's great, Barb. Thank you so much. And I would love to know more about how I could better use Zoom chat and Zoom polls. We've all experienced Zoom polls now on CLEs, but has anyone used Zoom? I've seen Zoom polls used very effectively for speakers. Like, if I knew what I was doing, I would have liked to start with a poll. How many of you have ever, before COVID, 7 months ago, ever used Zoom? I'd be one that said, no, I've never used Zoom. I don't even FaceTime, so all of us have learned so much through no choice of our own, right? In so quickly. So don't let yourself be limited by the opportunities. I tried to send you all a whole bunch of links to trainings, tutorials. Anyone want to share a good use of polls, chat, or a good tutorial you've seen? We only have minutes left.
Sandy, this is Kelly. I'm just going to interrupt here. And speaking of polls, I'm going to launch the second of the CLE poll boxes. I can also tell you from my experience in running hundreds maybe of webinars, a lot of presenters like to use them to get information about the audience, the example that you gave, and the person that's running the Zoom meeting is able to share the results. And as soon as I end this poll box, I can actually show you that. It can be helpful information for the presenter, and you can also use it to let anybody see the results of your poll.
Excellent, Kelly. Has any program developed expertise in Teams? Allegheny County Courts adopted this format. I've never even heard of Teams. Christine, can you tell us more about that?
Hi, Hi, everyone. So and this I mentioned to Barb to see if she wanted to do this. So Microsoft Teams has sort of a meeting phone platform, very similar to Zoom, very different in some respects. And Allegheny County Courts is doing remote hearings using Microsoft Teams.
Oh, Microsoft. Okay.
And I know the Allegheny County Bar Association did a CLE for its attorneys to, to kind of ramp up their expertise with Zoom, Teams. And then I know Susan Abramowitz, our managing attorney for family, for gearing up for all the PFA hearings, did a training for PFA volunteers on Teams.
Great.
So it's similar to Zoom, but it's different,
Yes. Yeah. And as I said from the beginning, anything we were talking about, I use Zoom, but there's so many different technologies. And there was a question about offering grace. If someone does not want to have their photo up on Zoom, that's fine. I did not give Sylvia, my dear friend, a hard time, as much of a hard time. Have to be on. Hi, Fro. See, I don't even have it. Okay, we have any other questions? Abe, any thoughts before we leave?
I was going to jump in because we are a minute away from ending, and I just wanted to thank everybody for participating. We wanted to give you some sense of what's going on and what can be done. One of the things that I like to say that in this era of the pandemic, especially when we've seen how hard it has hit the poorly resourced communities that we work with, and in this era of protests where we've really underscored what all of us have known about in working in the field is horrible problems of racial injustice. What really I hope comes of this is some incredible opportunity. And someday we will be on the other side of the virus, but let's not forget all the things that we will have learned by then about ways that we can access people, we can expand our resources. Many people tell me that they are actually helping more people today through this kind of tele-law than they were ever helping when they were relying on one person face to face. This way they can go and meet lots of people. As a person who travels all over Pennsylvania, I don't mind the fact that the last 6 months my car has gone a couple hundred miles instead of 20 or 30,000. Probably half a year, 35,000. So anyway, thank you all. It's time to go. Make sure you've clicked both of your CLE requirements. Bye-bye. Wave to everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, Winnie.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, Kelly. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.